What if I told you that right now, at this very moment, someone close to you is planning to lie to you today? It sounds dramatic, but here's the unsettling truth. You probably won't even notice when it happens. Most people hear dozens, some researchers say hundreds, of small lies every single day. Not just big, obvious lies, but tiny ones that slip under the radar. Excuses, half-truths, little distortions that slowly shape how we see people and situations. And the scariest part isn't that people lie. The scariest part is how easily we believe them. Think about it. A friend tells you they were too busy to reply. A family member says they didn't touch the leftovers. A coworker insists a project was rejected for budget reasons. On the surface, everything sounds normal, but beneath those words, there might be something else going on. If you can't spot deception, you're forced to live in a world built on stories you never chose to believe. But what if that didn't have to be the case? What if you could see lies forming before they were even finished? What if you could recognize the signs so clearly that deception became obvious instead of invisible? The first thing you need to understand is that catching a lie is not about staring harder or accusing people aggressively. It's about understanding what normal looks like. This is the foundation of everything. Professionals who interrogate criminals don't start with pressure or threats. They start with observation. Before anything serious is asked, they watch how a person behaves when they are calm, comfortable, and not under stress. How fast do they normally talk? Do they move their hands a lot or keep them still? Do they maintain eye contact naturally or do they glance away while thinking? This is their baseline, their natural state. Once you understand someone's baseline, changes become obvious. Deception isn't revealed by one universal signal. It's revealed by deviation. If someone who usually speaks confidently suddenly hesitates, that matters. If someone who normally gestures freely suddenly freezes their hands, that matters. A lie is not a single behavior, it's a break in pattern. People can fake confidence, but they struggle to fake consistency. Now here's where things get interesting. When you ask a direct question, the most important information doesn't come from the answer. It comes from the first few seconds after the question is asked. There's a brief window where the brain is deciding what to do, tell the truth or build a lie. In that moment, the body often reacts before the words are ready. This is why timing matters. Watch closely right after your question, not 10 seconds later, not after they finish talking, immediately. During this moment, certain reactions tend to appear more often when someone is lying. They may touch their face or neck as if trying to comfort themselves. They may suddenly look away or blink more than usual. There might be a pause that feels unnatural, like their brain hit a speed bump. Their voice may change, slightly higher, lower, faster, or slower than normal. Any single sign on its own means nothing. People get nervous for many reasons, but when you see multiple changes at once, especially right after a question, that's when suspicion becomes reasonable. Another mistake most people make is asking questions that are far too easy to lie about. Simple yes or no questions give liars exactly what they want, an easy escape. A skilled question doesn't ask whether something happened, it assumes it did. This forces the other person into a difficult position. If they're telling the truth, they simply explain. If they're lying, they must invent details instantly. And invented details are where lies collapse. Listen carefully to the language people use. Liars often avoid firm statements. Instead of speaking clearly, they leave themselves exits. Words like maybe, probably, I think, or as far as I remember act like safety nets. They soften the statement so it can be adjusted later if needed. Truth tends to be direct. Lies tend to be padded. Consistency is another powerful test. Real memories are stable. Fake ones are fragile. When someone is telling the truth, they're recalling events that already exist in their mind. When someone is lying, they're actively constructing a story. That takes effort. If you revisit the same topic later and approach it from a different angle, honest people usually stay aligned. Liars, on the other hand, often contradict themselves in small ways. The details shift, timelines blur, characters appear or disappear. Interruptions can also reveal a lot. Lying requires focus. When that focus is broken, the story often stumbles. If someone is deeply invested in maintaining a false narrative, an unexpected question can overload their mental process. They may pause longer than usual, respond with confusion, or accidentally change key details. Truth doesn't need to be protected. Lies do. Pay attention to moments when the conversation suddenly shifts direction. When someone senses danger, when they feel you're getting too close to the truth, their instinct is often to escape. They might bring up an unrelated topic, crack a joke, or suddenly remember something urgent. This isn't random, it's avoidance. When you gently steer the conversation back, watch how they react. Discomfort tends to spike when the lie is under threat. One of the most subtle techniques involves introducing a small, incorrect detail into the conversation. Not aggressively, not as an accusation, just casually. Someone who knows the truth usually corrects mistakes without hesitation. Someone who is lying may accept the false detail because correcting it feels risky. They're afraid of drawing attention. Silence, in this case, speaks loudly. But here's the most important part. None of these signs work in isolation. There is no single move that magically exposes deception. What matters is clusters, patterns, changes, and your intuition. Humans are incredibly good at sensing when something feels wrong. We just tend to ignore that feeling because we don't want to seem rude, suspicious, or confrontational. That gut reaction exists for a reason. The goal isn't to turn every conversation into an interrogation or to assume everyone is lying. The goal is awareness. When you understand how lies form, how stress leaks through behavior, and how language changes under pressure, you stop being an easy target. You start listening differently, watching more carefully. And once you do, you'll realize something powerful. Lies are far more fragile than they appear. The next time something feels off, don't dismiss it. Observe, ask better questions, notice the changes. You may be surprised how often the truth reveals itself without ever being directly spoken.